You're with the news here on Headlines today. I'm Shiv Arur. In a visit that will mark a new chapter in Sino-Indian ties, Chinese President Xi Jinping arrives in India moments from now on a 3-day visit. The Chinese contingent is likely to focus on boosting trade and investment besides addressing the contentious border issue. Chinese officials have indicated that Beijing is looking to commit between $100 to $300 billion on projects including high-speed rail and smart infrastructure. President Xi is the first big Asian head of state to visit India since the new Narendra Modi government was sworn into office in May this year. His first stop will be the state of Gujarat, which is not only Modi's home state, but also where China already has large investments. China is expected to commit investments worth $6.5 billion to set up industrial parks in India and sign purchase agreements of over $3 billion with domestic companies. In addition, about 16 documents are likely to be signed in areas such as trade and economic development, drug administration, and cooperation. Let's go straight across now to get an expert perspective on what we can expect and the way things will go forward over the next 3 days between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping of China. Joining me live is KC Singh, former Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs and a well-known voice on strategic and foreign affairs and diplomatic issues. Mr. Singh, welcome. Thanks for joining me. We in the media, Mr. Singh, are, often accused of taking a pretty simplistic view of, complex diplomatic engagements. India and China's relationship can never be really described as a simple one, especially at this time when there's actually so much happening. If I were to ask you to explain, to the lay viewer, who may not have a lot of background about India and China, what would you say is really on the table when Prime Minister Modi meets President Xi Jinping?
Firstly, Prime Minister Modi has made a very exceptional gesture to receive President Xi away from the national capital.
Yes.
It's rarely done. I don't remember last time it happened in India. It's one thing if somebody is transiting through, you go and meet him in Bombay or some other place. But when the leader's coming to Delhi, you normally await him in Delhi. You would remember that President Obama had also come to Bombay.
Yes.
He did his Mumbai visit and then he was received in Delhi. There, of course, the Prime Minister went to the airport, both for him and for President Bush, and later for the King of Saudi Arabia. But these are exceptional gestures. So first thing is the protocol aspect.
Yes.
Now you can take two views on that. And one is that was it necessary to do it? Because in the Chinese culture, they may view it differently. It's seen as kowtowing to a superior emperor, to an emperor of China,
yes,
who thought he is ruling from the center of the world. Or is it normal Indian mehmangiri, that this is how you receive a special guest? So you can have two different approaches to it. We don't know how the Chinese will view it.
Yes.
In which context they will see it. But in any case, the relationship between India and China has been fraught with this border friction which we've had from the 50s.
Yes.
Right from the beginning. From the time that we accepted Chinese occupation of Tibet was probably the time that we should have stabilized and had a formal border arrangement with China,
yes,
as a precondition to accepting Chinese occupation of Tibet. We did not do that, and that led then to friction in 1962 war. And since then the Chinese have really let this linger. We've seen the relationship go up,
yes,
with Rajiv Gandhi going to China, and then subsequently the relationship improved. Now what will happen will be that the Chinese are 4 times, the economy is 4 times the size of the Indian economy.
Absolutely.
Their defense budget is 3 to 4 times the Indian budget. They don't seem to be in a hurry to settle the border issue.
Yes.
They are interested in India.
If I may ask you a follow-up question specifically on that point, Mr. Singh, does India at this time, the perception is that the Modi government, is a new government. It's got a massive mandate. The perception is that it's a strong government that, won't shy away from sending out a message to its neighbors. Does India have any kind of leverage? China may not be in a hurry to settle the border dispute, but given the relationship as it stands right now, increasingly synergistic as far as, trade and economy are concerned, does the Modi government have any leverage to speed things up, to bring peace back on the border, sir?
Look, we are in the process of creating the leverage, and it's very interesting that as President Xi was in Sri Lanka and Maldives,
yes,
the Indian president was in Vietnam. So as the Chinese president extended all kinds of economic packages to Sri Lanka and also took over the development of the airport in Maldives, which earlier was being handled by an Indian company, and the dispute is still before a court in Singapore.
Yes.
The Indian president was doing likewise in Vietnam, because we extended $100 million letter of credit to Vietnam to enable them to buy military and other equipment
Correct,
from India.
yes.
And I think the signal also was that if we get any oil concession in Vietnam, in areas which China is claiming,
yes,
what Vietnam claims to be their sovereign territory, then India is not cheery from backing off from that. So therefore you will find this, that while there are areas where India and China will cooperate, there will also be friction,
yes,
and there will also be competition. So all three things will go on at the same time.
Okay.
Now how we are able to handle it and how China wants to handle it is what they'll be discussing over the next 3 days.
Okay, that's very interesting when you say that India is in the process of creating, that leverage that it may need to actually call, some of the shots in this relationship actually going forward. Mr. Singh, stay with me for a moment. Double celebrations in Gujarat's capital city today. Prime Minister Modi is in Ahmedabad for his birthday celebrations, and the city will also be playing host to Chinese President Xi Jinping, who will be kickstarting his India trip, like Mr. Singh just pointed out, not in Delhi, but in Gujarat. The first meeting between the two leaders is expected to take place on the banks of the river Sabarmati. Here's a full report on how that's going to play out.
Don't let these Chinese posters fool you into thinking that this is a town in China. This is actually Ahmedabad in Gujarat. The Prime Minister's home state has rolled out the red carpet to make sure Chinese Premier feels at home when he visits the state later today. The excitement is double, as today is also Narendra Modi's birthday. The meeting between Xi and Modi on the Sabarmati riverfront is being watched keenly, not just in India, but across the world.
Gujarat welcomes His Excellency Xi Jinping, the Chinese President, to India. Now, these boards have come across all over Gujarat, all over Ahmedabad, and here the Sabarmati riverfront is being spruced up to welcome the Chinese President. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will entertain the Chinese President here at the Sabarmati riverfront. You can see special tents being put up here, decorations being put up here, a glimpse of Gujarat for the Chinese President. Over 100 specially made vegetarian dishes for the Chinese President, also traditional Gujarati dance. You'll have Garba, you'll have Dandiya, Ras, a glimpse of Gujarat, a glimpse of India for the Chinese President and his entourage.
This will be the first time that a head of state will be meeting the Prime Minister not in New Delhi but in another state. And on Modi's birthday, Xi Jinping is coming along with a host of presents for India. China plans to invest close to $100 billion as FDI. Pacts on industrial park, railways, power, automobiles, textile, food processing are expected to be signed between the two countries. China is also expected to present its case for the development of the bullet train. Modernization of railways is another area where China is looking to invest millions of dollars.
We should welcome investment from China, but while we are welcoming investment, we should also keep some things in mind, that there are certain sectors which are very sensitive. Like for instance, defense. Defense is a very sensitive item, and if we take technology or investment from China, we don't know how reliable that would be.
But even as India and China look forward to forging a new friendship, the Chinese troops entered 500 meters into the Indian territory in Ladakh on the 11th of September.
As regards issues on the table here, sure, there are unresolved issues, including the boundary question. And if your question is that would that be addressed, my answer to that is yes. We've already told you that all issues of a substantive nature will be addressed.
Border issues remain the main sticking point between the two countries, but this time China is looking at winning India over with investments and development.
$100 billion worth of investment is what China has promised India. But that's only one part of the story. The second part of the story is sustained economic investment in mega cities, in infrastructure, in power, also in railways. This is where India and China expect to move forward. There is the traditional distrust between the two countries, but the two powerful heads of state and government intend to move forward to overcome all hurdles. With cameraman Alok Bhatnagar, Gaurav Sawant in Ahmedabad for Headlines Today.